TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem, and in today's top stories. An Israeli civilian succumbed to his wounds after sustaining moderate injuries in a terror attack approximately 2 weeks ago. Israeli forces apprehend 8 terror suspects in counter-terror activities as part of Operation Wavebreaker. U.S. President Joe Biden pledges to free Iran in a pre-midterms election pledge which his administration officials subsequently retract. IDF, ISA or Shin Bet, and Border Police Special Operations Forces conducted counter-terrorism activity throughout the West Bank districts of Judea and Samaria, as well as the Jordan Valley overnight, as part of Operation Wavebreaker. During the course of the operational activities, exchanges of fire were reported on in a number of locations. Nevertheless, no injuries were thankfully reported to the Israeli forces, who managed during the course of their activities to apprehend a total of 8 suspected terror operatives. Meanwhile, I regret to report that a 55-year-old Israeli civilian who sustained moderate injuries in a nationalistically motivated stabbing attack roughly 2 weeks ago succumbed to his wounds. Despite an initial improvement in his condition, which effectively secured his release from hospital care 1 week ago, the Israeli victim's stab wound apparently opened up last night, and within a matter of minutes, he reportedly lost consciousness after losing a substantive amount of blood. Subsequently, upon arrival of emergency medical teams, the victim, who was named as Shalom Sofer, was proclaimed dead. It is important to know that following an IDF manhunt in coordination with the ISA, the alleged Palestinian stabber was arrested. Meanwhile, amid the expected composition of the next government in Jerusalem, which includes the largest representation of members of the settlement movement since the country's inception, Israeli residents of the West Bank districts of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley are voicing hope for a new reality to emerge.
For me, the results of the last elections from last week is no less than a revolution in the national sense and in my personal life, because I've been yearning for a moment when the powers that are for the great Israel and for Jewish values, that these political powers will be in government. For me, from the point of view of a person who is heading a settlement movement, for me it's a victory for all these hills. We are going to establish a new issue, a new settlement. It will start as an outpost on this nearby hill in the Binyamin Mountains, and it will become like Kochav HaShachar, like Michmas, like Rimonim, like Ariel, like Ma'ale Adumim, like Tel Aviv.
Gives me more hope that things will change in the state of Israel towards being a more Jewish state, more of a settling the land of Israel state. I hope I will be not proven wrong.
It is interesting to know that while members of the referred to religious Zionist and Jewish power faction have little to no experience in executive defense or military affairs, their constituents are seemingly convinced that their rise to power would reassert Israel's deterrence vis-à-vis Palestinian terror.
The results of the elections are a reason for great happiness here in Beit El and throughout the Jewish villages in Judea and Samaria. We've been suffering Arab attacks, Arab violence, Arab bullying, jihadism on the roads, and we feel like with this new government there'll be a rectification of that situation, and there'll be an opportunity to build up a deterrence that the IDF and the police in Israel, I think, have lost.
Meanwhile, 6 days after last week's election, Israeli designate Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu received a phone call from U.S. President Joe Biden, during which the latter congratulated the Israeli leader on his election victory. During the 8-minute call, President Biden told Netanyahu, quote, "We're brothers, "We'll make history together. My commitment to Israel is unshakable." Netanyahu, for his part, asserted that he believes that additional historic normalization agreements between Israel and Arab states are attainable, and reaffirmed his personal commitment to the Israel-US alliance.
I'm confirming a call with the president had with Benjamin Netanyahu. So yes, the president did speak with him today. So confirming that right now to congratulate him on his party's victory and commend Israel's free and fair elections. The president reaffirmed the strength of the bilateral partnership and underscored his unwavering support for Israelis' security. We will continue to closely monitor the government formation process. As you know, that is the next process in this. We look forward to continuing to work with the Israeli government on our shared interests and values. We will have a more fuller readout for all of you as we normally do.
Meanwhile, the composition of the next Israeli government, that is expected to include a regarded successor of the Kahanist Kach party, which is a U.S.-designated foreign terrorist organization, namely Jewish Power Chairman Itamar Ben-Gvir, State Department spokesman Ned Price signaled to Jerusalem a veiled warning, stressing that the U.S.-Israel partnership is based on mutual interests and shared values.
I'm not going to speculate, but the point we've also made is that our rock-solid partnership with Israel is based on mutual interests and shared values. And it's those shared values that has served as a powerful glue between our two countries over the past more than 60 years now. It is a commitment to the value of open democratic societies, tolerance, respect for civil society, including minorities, and ultimately our identities as two democracies.
It is important to explain that the cause of the many allegations of racism and violence, which are leveled at the Jewish Power Chairman Itamar Ben-Gvir, are rooted in his 46 indictments and 8 charges in Israeli courts on cases related to support for terror and incitement to violence, among other related activities. Meanwhile, Biden administration officials have reportedly indicated, on condition of anonymity, that the United States would not work with Ben-Gvir if he manages to attain a ministerial portfolio in Netanyahu's next government. Nevertheless, TV7 was unable to confirm those reports. Meanwhile, ahead of today's midterm elections in the United States, President Joe Biden proclaimed that he intends to free Iran and that the Iranian people who have protested against the Ayatollah regime for the past 7 consecutive weeks will soon prevail.
Those burn pits, don't worry, we're going to free Iran. They're going to free themselves pretty soon.
Following these remarks, White House and State Department officials sought to double down on the president's statements.
The president was referring to the sentiment we've put forward since the start of these protests, namely expressing our solidarity with the protesters. We've been doing that from the very earliest days of these peaceful demonstrations. The fact is that Iran, its government, is facing problems that are fundamentally of its own making. It's going to be up to the Iranian people to determine the course of this movement. I think what has been so impressive to so many people around the world is that this movement has persisted in the face of violence. It's persisted in the face of repression. It's persisted in the face of systematic efforts to deprive the Iranian people of access to information and the ability to communicate with one another. The fact that these protests have continued, again, suggests that this is the widespread and genuine expression of the demands that the Iranian people have for their government. Rather than try to cast aspersions or cast blame on others, the Iranian government should listen to their people.
Despite efforts by U.S. administration officials to retract the president's election-driven remarks, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi responded by claiming that Iran was freed 43 years ago during the Islamic Revolution of 1979.
من چند ساعت قبل مطلع شدم رئیس جمهور امریکا سخنانی رو بر زبان شاید از حواس پرتی که دارد جاری کرده. چون این حرفها زده میشد اما پشت تریبون رسمی گفتنش شاید این اولین بار بود اتفاق افتاد. به من خبر دادن ایشون گفته که ما بنا داریم آزاد کردن ایران رو. آقای رئیس جمهور، ایران 43 سال قبل آزاد شد و مصمم است به اسارت شما در نیاید و ما هرگز گاو شیرده نخواهیم شد.
The Iranian president went on to pledge a harsh response against Iranian citizens which are protesting for their freedoms, proclaiming them to be enemies of the Islamic Revolution.
هر کس در جهت ناامنی و اغتشاش گام برداره ولی کوچکترین هم باشد بداند در جهت خواست دشمنان انقلاب اسلامی گام برداشته.
It is important to highlight that while the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, alongside the regime's suppressive Basij forces, warned protesters to hold their public outcry or else face the consequences, the people of Iran defiantly continue to flood the streets throughout the country in bold opposition to the tyrannical Ayatollah regime. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to stress our deep appreciation for TV7 Israel's family of supporters. TV7 Israel is a donation-based ministry, and therefore your financial contributions essentially enable us to sustain our ongoing operations here from Jerusalem. Additionally, I would like to encourage you, pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, and for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.